2 years ago on It Was a Thing on TV.
Back in 2007 and 2008, Game Show Network showed reruns of Beat the Clock, generally like really late on Saturday nights. And this still just irritates me to this day. They pulled Beat the Clock from the schedule, and I'm not even joking. I think it was the Tuesday episode from the final week. You've had us hanging. No, you've had me hanging for all these years. So I really, really need closure. Did Guy and Ralna Hovis actually win that week? Did they win a bonus stunt? Did Monty Hall thank the cast and crew and Jack Nars, who was the announcer and executive producer of the show? What happened? We need closure.
The pronunciation of which has been a source of contention, but if you were to ask the host, Tom Kennedy, the proper pronunciation is... And are you going to say that the brother of Jack Nars is wrong? Of course you're not.
But have you heard how Jack Nars used to say it? Because remember, at the end of Beat the Clock, they would say, stay tuned for next over most of these CBS stations. But Jack Nars did not always say that. Stay tuned for Woo, next over most of these CBS stations.
No, that would be the gritty reboot starring Ric Flair.
Woo! That's right, folks! I'm hosting this game show with a gauntlet of villains for 25 hours. Woo!
There was a contestant, and he won the main game, and in his excitement, he broke his ankle.
Oh.
Oh!
So they couldn't run the gauntlet with him then, because obviously he's probably in an emergency room, getting his ankle worked on.
And then you had Dennis, who was played by Gregory Itzen of 24, and future installment Strip Mall.
Yeah, and of course, Gregory Itzen playing Charles Logan, maybe one of the greatest heels in television history.
Mm-hmm.
Is Strip Mall on the list?
No, it is. I'm putting it on the list.
Is that the Julie Brown show?
Yeah. Yes.
Julie Brown with Chris Wilde, Jonathan Mangum, and yeah.
I forgot about that show.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I didn't forget about it, but yeah, that's a good entry.
You're gorgeous.
This is It Was a Thing on TV.
Punisher! Control! Hey, before I change my mind!
I give you Super Train.
Episode 310, submission number 891, Beta. Few Revisited. Few aired on CBS from April 23rd, 1979 to May 30th of 1980 for 273 episodes.
Close calls. Narrow escapes. Split-second decisions. And $25,000 in cash. A combination guaranteed to make you save. And now here's the star of our show, Tom Kennedy.
Oh, yes. How are you? Good to see you today. Welcome to our show. We pronounce it.
Yes, we're talking about Few again. 3 years ago, when we did this original episode, episode 31, there may have been about a dozen or so episodes out there. But then, to the surprise of every television fan, every game show fan out there, in August of 2021, BUZZR acquired the rights to air Few. And people rejoiced. People were like, wait, this has got to be some sort of fever dream. This has not aired on television in 42 years. And really, of the shows that BUZZR could have picked up, they got few. I mean, it's sort of mind-boggling and baffling. It's like, yes, we, the fan base, know it's a good show, but the fan base is maybe 1,000% of all television viewers, a very small microcosm, as it were.
Yeah, I guess the first question that everybody was asking themselves, first of all, it's great to be back. I had to miss the first episode because Gremlins. But the first question, I guess, on everybody's mind was, how?
Well, I know for a very long time, Burt Sugarman's asking price was on the high side for leasing few. Even though, again, it ran for just about a year.
That's what you call that cult classic. As we are living in the future, we know the episodes were on YouTube for a long time before BUZZR got a hold of the package and ran almost all of the episodes.
Yeah, I mentioned at the end of Half Nelson, episode 309, that as of now, I think about 160 episodes have aired, 150, 160, maybe even closer to 170 episodes. And again, that's out of the number that I mentioned at the beginning of the show, 273. And if I do a quick little search on BUZZR's website, if we look at this coming Monday, as of the time we're recording this, if we look at Monday, the 26th episode, the episode number that is airing on the 26th is episode 230. So they're about 7 weeks, 8 weeks away from the final episode. Not terribly far away. And taking a look at gameshows.fandom.com, right now, they just started week 47 this past Thursday, the 22nd of September. We have week 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56. So we have, it looks like 9 weeks left. So if all goes well and they do this 4 episodes a week thing, we should see the final episode of few, assuming that every episode is converted, assuming every episode is going to run, there's not going to be any sort of missing episodes or unaired episodes. We should get to the final episode of few probably around between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Because, so if we're talking 9 weeks left, that's about 45 episodes. That's about 4 episodes a week, about 11 weeks away. That would put us like smack dab like between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So maybe a little Christmas gift may be coming our way a little early. Who knows? Well, we've seen the finale. The finale is out there. We know how it ends. Well, and getting back to BUZZR's acquisition, they haven't shown every episode at this point. They started off by showing episodes 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a marathon the Sunday before it appeared on the regular schedule.
We actually covered that as a live watch.
We did cover that as a live watch. And yeah, we didn't get episode 3 for whatever reason, if there was some sort of political incorrectness or lost episode or what have you. But yeah, we did cover that as a 3-hour live watch, you and me, Chico, yes. But they didn't start on episode 8 on that Monday. They started, I believe, episode 78. So we missed 70 episodes, and I'm guessing once they get to the finale and once they do another cycle through like they seem to do, that sometime probably around March or April, possibly, knock on wood, we may get to see those first 70 episodes. We get to see the genesis of the show. But yeah, as is right now, we've seen probably close to about 20 weeks of celebrity episodes. And I think we've seen, in terms of regular episodes, about 11 or 12 weeks. So we've seen pretty much close to like 40 weeks of episodes, give or take, maybe a few less than 40, maybe 35 or so. But again, more episodes than we could have ever guessed we would have seen this time when we originally covered this topic 3 years ago.
Yeah, and if I can recall correctly, there were 56 total weeks of episodes. So a little over a year's worth of shows. The first half of the run, of course, were the regular games, and the second half were the celebrity games, in which the two players were teamed up with celebrities in a noble yet short-sighted attempt to breathe some life into the show.
Like other shows, specifically ones that we're going to talk about in the not too far future.
Hey, Mr. Testa, did that work?
Nope.
Does it ever work, Mr. Testa?
Nope.
All right, so the game itself, the idea was to ascend a board. It had 6 levels. On the bottom 5 levels, there were 5 boxes. And on the top level, level 6, there were 3 boxes. So it was essentially keystone shaped. Yeah, so it looks like a square, but you have a little row on top. So it does kind of sort of look like a keystone shape. And the idea was to get to the top of the board, conquer all 6 levels, or at least the 6th level is the most important. You don't have to get all 6 levels. We'll talk about that in a moment. But you want to get to level 6 and succeed at level 6, and you're the winner of the round. If you aren't able to get to level 6 for some reason, then the other team wins the round. And the people who are on offense are called chargers. They're charging up the board. And also they're charging off stage when they leave for the blockers, the defenders, to put the blocks on the board. The blocks, since we mentioned it, what they do is they are placed by the blocker or the blocking team. 6 of them go on the board. There's some stipulations, though. You can't put more than 1 on the 6th level, because if you put more than 1 there, it's going to make it really tough. So maximum of 1 on the 6th level to start. We'll get to that in a bit. And then on any of the bottom 5 levels, you can't put more than 3 on any single row, on any level. And you only get a total of 6 blocks.
But aside from those rules, fair game.
Yeah, and the thing is, you see the different strategies coming out now that we have 150 or so, 160, 170 episodes. You definitely get an idea as to strategies and what works, what doesn't work. We'll talk about strategies a little bit later. So the team that's charging gets 60 seconds to ascend this board. And again, the only level that really matters is level 6. If you can naturally go up, get 1 from level 1, get 1 from level 2, get 1 from level 3, 4, 5, 6, that's fine. However, you hit a block, that's going to take off 5 seconds.
4, 3, 2, 1.
And if time runs out, the charging team loses. The blockers win. However, there is a lifeline here. And the lifeline is called the long shot. And what happens is if you call long shot, you can only call it on levels 1 through 5. And we've seen this on a number of BUZZR episodes where they're on level 6. Once you get to level 6, you are committed to level 6. So you can't call long shot on level 6. And Tom Kennedy will even mention that, saying on level 6, you cannot do long shot. You have to play it out. If you call long shot, the time stops. You automatically go from whatever level you're at to level 6. There's one little catch, though. I mentioned that there can be up to 1 block on level 6, That's just in a normal blocking position. If long shot is called, the blockers get to put a second block up there, assuming there already is a block on level 6. So the odds drastically change from 2-1 in your favor before long shot of getting a question to 2-1 against the Charger finding a safe block, because you have one good box and conceivably 2 bad boxes, 2 long shots.
It's basically they may or may not have put a previously placed block there.
And again, we'll get to that in a moment. We'll talk about a lot of the happenings, because a lot of stuff has happened on this show in the, again, 160, 150, 170 episodes that have aired thus far. So if you get a block on level 6, again, charging team loses, blockers win. If time runs out, again, blockers win, Chargers lose. The only way the Chargers can win is if they get to level 6 and get a blooper, whether it's in a long shot or just in a regular gameplay, if they get a blooper and answer it correctly. Oh, did we even mention what bloopers are?
No, we didn't. In each of the squares in play, there is a phrase with one phrase that is purposefully edited, creatively, I must say, to be punny.
For example, one of my favorites, and I cannot believe this slipped by the censors. I don't remember what show it's from. It's from a celebrity show. It may have been one of the Betty White episodes, I think. I'm not 100% sure. But the hard thing on a bird's face is called its pecker. Get it? Hard pecker? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's juvenile humor, but it serves a purpose. And obviously, you would replace the pecker with the beak. So that's all as simple it is. And yeah, there's a lot of puns, a lot of wordplay, a lot of double entendres, a lot of risque clues.
It was the 70s on CBS, Mike.
It was the 70s. Well, it was the 70s, number one, but also I think we can attribute that a little bit to Jay Wolpert. Because he liked pushing the envelope.
He did. He made a career out of it.
And we even talked about that in the Double Dare episode, Double Dare 76, because on the final episode, maybe one of the funniest segments in game show history, if you've never seen it, the clues that led to the answer, a boomerang, in terms of like people would tie this hard piece of wood around their legs and sound. Yeah, a lot of double entendres that had the crowd hooting and hollering.
And the thing of it is, it took a while to get there. So
yeah, you got more and more risque clues. It's like the Double Dare final episode, he wanted to go out with a bang. He sort of wanted to say, maybe not necessarily screw you, Goodson Todman, or screw you, CBS, but yeah, this is my show and we're going to end it the way I want to, darn it.
Basically, I mean, I see something like that, and then I see the end of Hitman, which was classic in and of itself, as Jay Wolpert giving a gigantic beep you to whatever network his show might be on.
Well, we'll talk about that in January.
Yes, we will.
Oh, but speaking of, did we mention who announced this show?
That would be some guy by the name of Robert Ray Roddy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah, and at this time, he would have been doing soap. April of 79 would have been the end of season 2. So he's a hot property at this point, you'd think.
Oh,
between soap and Few. And obviously, we know down the road, 1983, he'd be on Press Your Luck. He'd be on Hitman, too. So we just talked about Hitman.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hitman, Press Your Luck. And then obviously, we know what happened in late 85, early 86 after Johnny Olson passed.
Yes.
Yeah, he became the announcer for The Price is Right. And he was in that role for well over 17 years, I think, before his passing.
Can I just point out one thing? You
Yeah.
hear his narration on Soap. He is very calm, measured, studious. When he's doing or Price is Right or Press Your Luck, not so much.
Oh no, he is very into it.
His voice is cracking a ton.
But you know what? We love him for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes him unique. Absolutely. So getting back to the game itself, in any given round, the Chargers win only if they get that level 6 question. That blooper, if they correct it, they win. If they get it wrong in a long shot situation, if time runs out, whether they're in a block or not, if they hit the long shot or the regular block after calling long shot, they lose, the blockers win. In the second round, the roles are reversed. The blockers become the Chargers become the blockers. Gameplay stays the same. And then if there's a third round, the champion has the option of charging or blocking. And if there's no champion, then a coin toss determined who's the challenger per se and who's the champion. And we should add that for rounds 1 and 2, initially the challenger, again, air quotes there for challenger, the person who's not designated the champion that may have lost the coin toss or what have you, they get to choose whether to charge or to block in round 1. And then again, they change positions in round 2, and they're told what categories are in play. So they may strategize by saying, okay, I like category 2 a little bit better. They're not going to say this out loud because you don't want to give even an inch of space to your opponent. But they may think in their head, okay, I like this category. I'm going to charge this category in round 1. I'll block the other category in round 2. So whomever wins 2 out of 3 rounds becomes the champ. The person who loses, if they weren't a champion, they got a consolation prize. But man, did they give away some nice consolation prizes in terms of appliances, trips to Vegas or Tahoe for a week, even mopeds. And mopeds, I know neither of you were really around in the late 70s. Mopeds were very popular back in the late 70s and early 80s. So yeah, if somebody got a moped, I mean, that's probably, I'm guessing at least $1,000, $1,200. That's a nice consolation prize. I'll be glad to take a moped.
Oh yeah.
If I knew how to ride one, yeah.
Yeah, if you were mobile in the 70s and early 80s, of course, in the peak of the national gas crisis, of course you want one of those things. I mean, who wouldn't?
Well, national gas crisis, but also the inflation that came in the early 80s, the rampant inflation that came in the early 80s. Yeah. A lot cheaper than buying a car. So whomever won, they went to the Gauntlet of Villains, and this may be the most remembered bonus round in game show history. Not just because of the gameplay, but also because there were 10 cardboard villains. Not really cardboard, probably plywood, but still 10 cutouts regardless, that had little televisions in their bodies. Again, this is pretty good technology for 1979. And the televisions in their bodies, they're called telebellies. Cute little play on words there. Yeah, telebellies. That's cute little play on words. So in the Gauntlet of Villains, the telebellies, they served a couple of purposes, but the main one is playing bloopers like they did in the main game. It wouldn't have a text version. It would all be oral. You'd have to pay attention and listen. And the blooper part would be the last word. There wouldn't be any sort of, okay, we're going to take a phrase from this blooper and you got to correct that phrase, or we're not going to take anything besides the last word, or we're not going to alter anything besides the last word. So you knew the part that needed to be corrected was at the end.
And the answers were always one word.
Yeah, it's always one word that needed to be replaced, and always one word answers were needed in the gauntlet. And They had about 2 or 3 seconds to answer. I think it was about 3 seconds. And if they didn't get it in time, or if they got it wrong, the answer would appear on the telebelly. But also, the telebelly served a couple of other purposes. When Tom Kennedy took the champion or the championship team to the Gauntlet of Villains, he'd go to the villains and say, well, how do they feel today? And there'd always be some sort of snide comment, or you're going down, or maybe a timely comment about Thanksgiving or Christmas, or what celebrity's playing that week, doing some sort of play on words or a rhyme or a pun with the celebrity's first name or last name, or a combination therein. But also, if there was a gauntlet loss, there would be, again, some sort of snide comment, go back to school, case closed, or something like that. But also, if the gauntlet was won, there would be some sort of snide comment, try collecting, or good luck with the tax man, or can we borrow a $20 bill or something like that. Somewhere on the internet, I saw everything that had been on the telebellies in terms of what is said to the contestant or contestants before the gauntlet, when Tom Kennedy says, how are you feeling today? But also what happens afterwards, both victories and defeats, the little comments that appear in the telebelly. So the Gauntlet of Villains, as I said, it's just bloopers. You have to get 10 in a certain amount of time. Now, here's where you got to pull out your slide rule. This gets a little, I don't want to say convoluted, but it could be if you are not a fan of doing math, even sort of lightweight math. So the contestant is given a base 60 seconds. However, for every $100 they earn in the main game between charging and blocking, they get 1 extra second. And we didn't even talk about how to earn the money on the board. Levels 1 through 5, they have in $10 increments, $10, $20, $30, $40, $50 from level 1 to level 5. That top row, they have $200, $350, and $500. And that's obviously where a lot of your money is made. Probably the vast majority of it, because you can only get about $250 in the bottom 5 levels in a main game, whether you're charging or blocking. And I have not seen many blocking patterns which were all 50s. I don't think I've seen any blocking patterns that are all 50s. So your money's made on level 6, whether it's charging or blocking. So the contestant or team gets 60 seconds plus 1 second for every $100 they earn. And there are no partial seconds here. So if they earn, like, let's say $720, they don't get 7.2 seconds. We don't have the technology in 1979 to do that on a game show, I don't think. But also, again, that would make it a little more complex. So they just take the floor value. Okay, you had $720. You're getting 7 additional seconds on top of the 60. You have 67 seconds. And the idea is just get from 1 to 10, beat all 10 villains, and you win $25,000, which in 1979 was the most money you could earn on a game show, I do believe, because $20,000 pyramid, you could win $20,000. And even like Match Game PM would have been like $21,000, I think, was the maximum. So yeah, 25,000, I think, was about as good as it got in. Well, no, actually, one that does beat it, and it was done once. Card Sharks, you could win $28,800. That's the one exception to the rule. If you go double, double, double all the way to the top, you can win $28,800 in Card Sharks. But still, $25,000, big payday if you can get through 10 villains. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the names of those 10 villains, because they are legendary.
Before you do, we didn't even talk about how much $25,000 in 1979 is worth today.
Oh, $25,000 back then is easily $100,000.
$101,987.26.
Like I said, easily $100,000 by $2,000. But yeah, I mean, if you hear Tom Kennedy talking to the contestants after gauntlet victories, what are you going to do with the money? A lot of them said, I'm going to college, I'm buying a car, and then I'm going to travel through Europe, or I'm putting a down payment on a house. And boy, if you put a down payment on a house in California in 1979, you are a very savvy and smart person, given property prices nowadays in California. But again, going back to the gauntlet, in order, you start off with Alphonse the Gangster. Looks sort of like an Al Capone ripoff. Oh, Alphonse, that makes sense. Alphonse. Yeah, no. Well, so some of these are a little more obvious than others, but that does make sense when you think about it. Number 2 is Bruno the Headsman. So think of like somebody at a guillotine who's going to slice your head off, and he's actually got a bloody head in his basket to sort of emphasize the point. Number 3, Mr. Van Louse, the landlord, and he's holding the deed. He's ready to evict you. Number 4, and I think this is the only one based on a real person, Nero the Fiddler. And you can see the flames in the background, like he's in Rome, and he's got his fiddle and whatnot. Number 5, Count Nibbleneck the Vampire, because we can't use the name Count Dracula. However, they did get away with number 6, Frank and his little friend Stein. Frank and Stein. Number 7 was Kid Rotten the Gunslinger. Looked like somebody straight from the Old West. Number 8, Jeremy Swash the Pirate, complete with parrot on his shoulder and his scabbard and his wooden leg. Number 9, Dr. Deranged the Mad Scientist. Isn't that your nickname, Chico, at work, the Mad Scientist?
Dr. Deranged the Mad Scientist. Yes, that is my nickname.
I would love to see you put that on your ID badge.
I'm
not Chico Alexander. I'm Dr. Deranged the Mad Scientist.
That's not happening, Mike.
Now, I know. You got to have job security. You got to have employment. And then number 10 is Lucretia the Witch, complete with cauldron, with a frog on the side of the cauldron, and a black cat on her shoulder.
Yep. And actually, Mike, you mentioned that there was a place out there that had every sort of phrase on their telly belly.
Yeah.
I found it.
Oh.
Yes. So I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to go through the really good ones. I'm going to actually go through the intros, which is what they have to say when Tom meets them for the first time. On the first episode in April 23, 1979, their telly bellies say, "Hi, folks."
Yeah, it's the premiere. They're welcoming people who are watching the show for the first time. Absolutely.
And then the second episode was like, "Ain't we cute?"
Now they're bragging.
And then I think Andrea Klein would have won her third game by the April 30th, 1979 episode. And the Teletubby said, "Her again?" And the day after, "Enough is enough."
Enough is enough is enough!
You can see Jay Wolpers having a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. Now, Howard Wilson, who was on for at least 6 games.
Oh, I think he was on for... I think it was 7 games, actually.
I said, at least 6 or 7 would work, yeah.
Yeah, and I think in terms of total episodes, I want to say he was on like 8 total episodes.
Yeah, well, on the June 8th episode, the Telly Belly said, "Hell fallen for." And then the June 11th episode, "Villains 5, Howard 0. And the day after, "On guard, Howard." And they like to keep stats on these things, like the July 30th, 1979 episode, Villain 65, People 13.
And that, I do believe, was the first episode that aired on BUZZR.
And then on August 14th, they bumped it up to Villains 80, People 14.
That may have been the first episode. I remember the first episode that BUZZR aired. They did a count as to the number of gauntlets won versus number that were lost.
And then there was just, for some reason, on September 12th, 1979, they had Kilroy was here.
Oh, man. Kilroy was here.
That was my sister's birthday. Birth date, actually. She was born on that day.
Oh.
So that's probably the episode that I saw in the waiting room when my mom was in labor.
Oh. Well, now every time you can think of Kilroy, you can think of that Stick song and your sister's birth.
October 22nd, with P.J. Thompson having won, She'll Dive in 5. The next day, Nanu Nanu, because that would have been a reference to a show on another network. And now we go to November 5th, which would be the first gauntlet of Celebrity. And they say for 2.
So yeah, that's the general idea, is the gauntlet and the writers are having a lot of fun with the contestants. And as I mentioned earlier, once Celebrities came on, there were a lot of puns about the stars' first names and or last names. And actually, you did hear that if you listen to any Shuckapalooza episode, because our little Shuckapalooza open ended with Tom Kennedy saying after a gauntlet loss, "Oh shuck."
Oh shuck. And then, of course, and then what was it else was it followed by, Mike?
"You're gorgeous"?
No, this.
Starfleet regulations, that's outrageous!
I should have guessed that. Why did I say "you're gorgeous"? Maybe because it was played at the beginning of this episode. I have no idea. And again, at the end of the gauntlet, if the contestant lost, there would be some sort of snide comment. Again, like, go back to school, class dismissed, something related to the holidays. We ruined your Christmas or something like that. But for a win, like I said, it would be sort of like, okay, you're good luck collecting. That
was actually from the finale there, Mike.
Do you want to get paid in pennies, or can you spare $10 or so? Yeah, you get the idea as to some of the humor that was involved in the show. Now, anybody who won the gauntlet, they automatically retired because, as we've talked about in the past, there was a strict $25,000 limit to winning a game show on CBS in 1979. However, you were able to keep anything over that $25,000 that you won. So any main game money or previous gauntlet money that you won, you got to keep. And if you did not succeed at the gauntlet, you got $100 for each villain.
Oh.
So really, between the gauntlet and the main game, generally a contestant would rack up about $1,300 to $1,500, which again, in 1979 money, is not a bad consolation.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot.
It's good money if you can make it.
And also, when you consider there was initially no cap on how many episodes you can appear on, after Howard Wilson played, the person we talked about earlier, he was on for 7 games. They instituted a hard 5-game cap. But the thing is, if you didn't win the gauntlet, but you won 5 times, you probably ended up with close to $8,000. That's not a bad chunk of change, especially in an era where cars cost like $4,000. $8,000, that's 2 cars. That's not bad at all.
I would love to lose 5 games and still come up with $8,000. That, of course, is still before taxes. But even after taxes, you can still afford a decent economy car in that day and age.
Oh, yeah.
But also, as you said earlier, basically $1 in 1979 is equal to about $4 nowadays. So that's like winning $32,000. That's no small amount of change for quote unquote losing. You're not a loser if you can walk away with basically $32,000 nowadays. All right, so we're going to talk about stuff that we've noticed about the show. I can't speak for Chico and I can't speak for Greg, but Few is a show that I watch. If I don't see it on a daily basis because I'm at work, what I usually do is actually before we do the recording, I watch the week's previous episodes because I have a laptop that I use to record HD signals. So I get to watch basically 2 hours of Few before we do this podcast. And some of the stuff I've noticed. Well, first, I think after seeing the shows for now a year or so, I think I have an idea as to like the optimal defense. What I believe you need to do defensively, well, first and foremost, you need emphasis. You need to put a block on level 6. Need. If a long shot is played, turning the tables from a 2 and 3 possibility of finding a blooper to a 1 and 3 possibility is a game changer. But also, if you don't have a block up there, going from 3 available bloopers to just 2, the odds still say that you're going to find a blooper. There's 2 bloopers and 1 block. So you need to put a block on level 6. Related to that, what I've noticed is the place to play a initial block, not a long shot block, an initial block is at 350. Then you've got to gauge how the charging team plays the board because, you know, if they tend to go to the high end, you may want to put a block at 500. If they tend to go to the low end, you may look at 200, but also at the same time, you need to use reverse psychology. So if they play on the high end, if they play 40s and 50s, you may want to put the block at 200 because, you know, they're playing just high values. They may want to switch it up and say, nope, I'm going to 200. And alternatively, if somebody's playing primarily lower amounts, you may want to put a block at 500. Same reason, reverse psychology. Or you could just, like, as a charger, you could just essentially not have a strategy and randomly pick on the board where to go, A, trying to avoid blocks, but also B, trying to confuse the charger as to where to place the long shot possibly. And also another strategy in terms of blocking, as a blocker, I think it's best if for your bottom 5 blocks, if you put 3 on any level and then 2 on any other level. So you have 2 rows, one with 2 blocks, one with 3 blocks. Yes, there are 3 that are unprotected, but the thing is, if you can get somebody with that trap, that's going to kill them. And really, based on what I've seen on Few, if you have some combination of 3 total blocks or missed bloopers, any combination, if you have 1 block and 2 missed bloopers, or 3 missed bloopers, or 2 blocks and a missed blooper, or just 3 blocks, you're generally not going to win in terms of not utilizing the long shot. And charging, I think the strategy there is you may want to either feign strength or feign weakness, because it seems that based on reactions, the opponent can gauge where they need to block. Okay, this person was really excited about playing sports or science or pop culture, television, so I'm going to put blocks on the high end, 40s and 50s. And then what the Charger should do is to go up the 10s and 20s and then go for 200. Because, yes, he's coming across as being strong in that category. So play the weaker clues and zoom up the board. And there's been a lot of times that's been done where people blocked 40s and 50s on something that they thought the opponent was strong in, and the opponent just went up 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 200, boom, have 20 seconds left. There's a lot of psychology in this game. I think that's another interesting facet of this. It isn't just answering bloopers. It isn't just the puns. It's also strategies, how to play the game, how to outwit your opponent. It's very thrilling on so many levels, I think. But also, in addition to the strategies, some of the moments we've seen. Now, we did mention Randy Amasia earlier. His 2 episodes, I think, aired the Friday episode of the second week. BUZZR started airing a few, and the Monday episode of week 3, because he actually was on a Friday and Monday episode. So we did get to see that. Even though it's been online for 20 some years, it is just very refreshing to see him win again. And we know somewhere he's like replaying this 24/7, because that was his one endeavor in life, was he wanted to see that second episode. He had his first since the time it aired back in 1979, but the person who was supposed to record the second episode forgot. And as Randy had once mentioned, that person wasn't employed much longer where Randy was at. By coincidence. You don't get fired for not recording a coworker's few episodes, sorry. But again, just some other highlights that we've seen. First off, I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention a podcast favorite. Greg knows where I'm going with this.
Yes.
And if you listen to the podcast often enough, you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
That bastard Charles Logan was on an October 1979 episode.
But hold on, Mike. Because we talked about this in episode 31. Who was the contestant he lost to, Mike?
Well, we didn't talk about this in episode 31 because this is sort of speculation.
Yeah.
We didn't know Greg Gitson was on Few until this episode aired.
No,
But
we
the
didn't even have the bit of that bastard Charles Logan yet.
No. We knew the possibility of a contestant who dislocated his knee, and on episode 119, we actually got to see it. That bastard Charles Logan, he was the challenger against champion Stephen Matthews, when Matthews, who I think admittedly said he was like 315 pounds at the time, he was a big boy. He jumped up and down, got very excited, and then the video faded to black, and Tom Kennedy with Greg Gitson on stage said, "You're not going to believe this, but Stephen Matthews dislocated his knee in excitement. We'll have him back in the future. And, oh, good game, Greg. Let's give you a consolation prize." That's essentially what happened. And then they brought out 2 new players because, there's no champion because your champion's in the ER. And that was like rumored for the longest time. We've talked about that online for 25 years about it happening, and people had vague memories, but it was like Halloween of 2021 when we got the proof that this happened. And then fast forward to about April, I think it was about April or March of 2022, BUZZR showed Stephen Matthews' triumphant return in episode 184. So this is 65 episodes later. This is in the middle of the celebrity run. They had him return on a Monday episode. I believe the gauntlet had been won on the previous episode. If it wasn't won, then there's a 5-time champion who retired because, again, 5 games was the limit. But he came out to pomp and circumstance with a leg brace on, and he blitzed through the villains, won $25,000, and the villains put on their telebellies, no jumping, because they didn't want him to re-injure himself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in celebration, again, 315-pound Stephen Matthews picked up Tom Kennedy.
Oh, that was awesome.
Well, at least he didn't do any jumping. That was the January 21st, 1980 episode, 2 days after I made my premiere in a California hospital. But, yeah. Stephen Matthews was last seen on the October 12th, 1979 episode. Footage from it was indeed played back 3 months after dislocating his knee in a brace. He had shaved his beard, and he won $1,000, so his gauntlet time was 70 seconds, and Mike told you everything that happened after that.
Okay, Chico, I got to ask this question. So I was in the delivery waiting room when my sister was born, and apparently I may have, I'm pretty sure I saw the few that day. I don't remember the Kilroy was here thing. Is it possible that Kiesla was in the hospital waiting room 2 days after you were born going to see you with few on the air?
Almost certainly possible. In fact, Kiesla told me the day that me and D'Angelo came home from the hospital was the happiest day of her life. Not only did she have a little brother, she had 2 little brothers. And to this day, we are her little baby boo-boo bears.
And she also got to see Stephen Matthews kick the Gauntlet's butt. So
yeah,
three great things happened that day, probably.
It was a good day.
It was a good day.
You know what? The day I was born wasn't a good day because freaking Ed Begley didn't have the 30 on Match Game Hollywood Squares.
Oh, dear.
You know how disappointed I am that didn't happen?
No, why don't you tell us, Greg?
And I think, wasn't Tom Bray on that week? He didn't have the 30 either, I don't think.
I don't think Tom Bray ever had the 30, but
no, Tom Bray did not have the 30.
That sucks.
Yeah, we're sort of getting off the beaten path, though.
Okay, hold on. Did we mention who did the music for Few?
No, we didn't.
No. All right, let's say it right now. Who did the music for Few?
Alan Thicke.
That's right. He did do the music for Few, and well. Oh,
I knew it.
Hey, Greg, you want to answer that phone?
Okay, hold on a second. Hello? Alan, I need to ask you something. Whenever you call, why do you always say hello when you're making the call? Oh, that's how we do it in Canada. You make a call, and then you say hello when someone answers the phone. Yeah.
That's rather backwards of you, sir.
Well, we do everything in Canada backwards. But, you're talking about Few? Why are you talking about Few?
No reason.
Because you did the music for Few. I did? I don't remember doing the music for Few.
You totally did the music for Few.
I did.
It was a jazzy little number in your oeuvre at the time. Anybody who listens to the theme song to Wheel of Fortune from 1975 knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, you don't know a lot of people know this, but I did the original theme music for Wheel of Fortune. That's right, you did, Alan.
Hey, Alan, I think you know why you don't remember writing the music to Few.
Why?
You did it in the thick of the night.
Oh yeah, that's probably why. You know what? You know, everybody needs a dream to run on. You know, you gotta be running to the thick of the night under the city lights.
That would make a really good song if you think about it.
Oh yeah, it would make a great song. I should probably write that right now.
Hey, Greg?
Yeah?
Can you stop conjuring up weird dead people?
You know that he's a time traveler, Mike. We've already talked about this.
Hey, whatever put you to sleep at night, Greg?
Well, thankfully, Alan's too busy writing the song, he can't hear you. What are you guys talking about?
We're talking about your red TARDIS, Alex. I mean, Alan.
Alex!
Alex isn't here.
I got my time traveling Canadians mixed up. I'm so sorry.
Well, Birdie tells me that you finished third on Jeopardy? What the heck? I get this.
You're not supposed to know that. Well, actually, you know what? It's not important.
Oh my gosh.
Not important.
I didn't know Alan Thicke is so all-knowing.
I access J-Archive in the future, guys.
You can't.
I have a question, Alan. If you can go to J-Archive in the future, can you tell me if I'm ever going to be on the show?
I can't tell you that.
Interesting how he conveniently remembers the rules of time travel.
I'm talking to you in the part of the future where Chico has already appeared on Jeopardy. So why would I tell you the future about when you appeared on Jeopardy, Mike? Oh, crap.
So yeah, Alan Thicke wrote the music to Few.
Yes, I did. Well, anyway, I gotta go leave now. So, thanks, guys.
You running that thick of the night, my friend.
All right, well, that's a great idea for a song. I'm gonna write that, and it should be a bang and toot. I'll send you the tune when I'm done. Okay,
yes,
Alan.
and never use the word begging again. Thank you very much.
All right, Alan. Talk to you later. Say hi to Booger for us.
Okay. Oh,
Ah.
Can you believe that, guys?
I'm trying my best not to, but you're making it impossible.
No, that was incredible. Alan, man.
Alan has such impeccable timing.
He does. But, okay, hold on. Did we mention who was the first champion on Few in 1979?
Oh, I was going to get to that. I wanted to talk about some of the big moments, and that's actually a good place to pick it up, is the first champion, even though if you ask her about it, she sort of doesn't really acknowledge it. She's sort of kind of blown off the question on Twitter in the past. Just say Julie Brown.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
She was the first champ. She was not the first gauntlet winner. She only won one episode, and the person that beat her won the first gauntlet. But yeah, she was the first champ. And we really haven't seen any other people who would later be famous.
Other than her and Gregory Itzin. Which
it's her and Greg Itzin.
Yeah, and coincidentally, both were on Strip Mall. So, there you
That's
go.
A coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know who else was on Strip Mall?
Jonathan Magnum.
Mm-hmm. And Loretta Fox.
And Loretta Fox, yes.
And that bastard, Chris Wilde.
Oh, that's true. It had that bastard Charles Logan and it had that bastard Chris Wilde.
Other moments I want to mention. We talked about Stephen Matthews with his dislocated knee. The enthusiasm level of some contestants was overwhelming, to say the least. There was an episode, it was probably about a week or two after Randy's episode aired. I think it was episode 92, where one contestant gave out the longest and loudest long shot you'll ever hear. And that wasn't the only time that there was maybe a different way of doing long shot. Two celebrity moments come to mind immediately. In 1 week, there was Marianne Mobley. And Marianne Mobley, she tried. She blanked on the word long shot.
Oh.
And she said, that thing up there, what's it called? And then finally, after like 5 seconds of hemming and hawing, long shot.
Charge, Marianne.
Let's do that thing up there. What is it called?
Long shot.
Long shot.
there was a little joke there. After that episode, Tom Kennedy actually had a cue card with long shot written on it and gave it to Marianne Mobley so she would never forget the long shot. But it also happened again, believe it or not, to Dick Gautier.
Oh.
Well, he wasn't really hemming and hawing saying, what's that thing up there called? He just like totally blanked out. And he said like everything but long shot. And he got the same treatment. He was given a cue card that said long shot on it. And actually, going back to Marianne Mobley, when she returned for her second week with Gary Collins, she had the long shot cue card with her. That was one thing that Gary Collins said they talked about at home is, don't forget it's called long shot. It's not called that thing up there. It's not called, whatever terminology was used or not used by Marianne Mobley. It's the long shot.
Yeah. By the way, Gary Collins was on an earlier week with Trish Stewart, who to this day, I cannot remember a single thing she was on.
Young and the Restless, I believe. And actually, no, it was Young and the Restless, I do believe. But actually, on one of the weeks that she's been on, I think she's only been on 1 week on BUZZR airings thus far. She was promoted as being on Salvage 1.
Oh, that's the sci-fi.
Andy Griffith as a junkman and an astronaut.
Oh, but hold on, Chico. Do you know who was an executive producer on that show?
Oh, God. I cannot remember who is the producer on that one.
Okay. Harv Bennett.
Ah, the guy who wrote Star Trek 2 and 3.
And 4.
And 4.
Yep.
Before we get to the celebrity version, the one observation I want to make before we get to the celebrity few is there actually was like almost a month long, and maybe even longer than a month long drought at the Gauntlet. Not even joking. There was, I believe it was from like episode 94 or so until like episode 124. There were no Gauntlet wins. So there were no wins for a good 4 to 6 weeks. Nice way to save on the budget, I'll tell you that. And we'll get to that in a moment when we get to Celebrity Feud, because there were some really good celebrities on Feud. But yeah, there's like a 30 episode dry streak at the Gauntlet. That's kind of weird and kind of amazing if you think about it. So talking about Celebrity Feud, hi, Banoodles. So talking about Celebrity Feud, the format changed from a civilian-only format to a civilian and a celebrity starting on November 5th of 1979. And the open changed a little bit. Same music, same general open, except instead of saying a combination guaranteed to make you say few, at least for like the first 15 weeks or so, or most of those first 15 weeks, the opening was changed to
Two great stars and their contestant partners are going to have close calls. Narrow escapes. Split-second decisions. And a chance at $25,000 in cash. All here on Celebrity. And now here's the host of our show, Tom Kennedy.
Well, hello there. Merry Christmas, everyone. Welcome to Celebrity Feud.
So pretty much the same open, but going through the celebrities really fast. And the celebrity version ran 28 weeks, which coincidentally is how long the civilian version lasted. So literally half the shows are celebrity, half the shows are regular. The first week had Carol Lawrence and Patrick Wayne. And really, Carol Lawrence, this is her only appearance on this show. And Patrick Wayne did come back for a later week. And there was one gauntlet winner that week, and that was with Patrick Wayne. And I actually wonder if that may be the reason some of these celebrities weren't brought back, because you don't want a celebrity who doesn't get to the gauntlet, or at least doesn't win a gauntlet. So it's kind of interesting that Carol Lawrence's only appearance was that week. Week 2 had Carol Wayne and Sal Viscuso.
And of course, Sal Viscuso was a great pyramid player. We know that.
Absolutely. And Carol Wayne, we know, was great at celebrity sweepstakes.
Yes.
And also she was Johnny Carson's arm candy as Art Fern, the Tea Time movie guy. But also, I think we need to say this. The reason we say this is because she was married to Burt Sugarman at the time. And actually that week, believe it or not, there were 3 gauntlet wins. Carol Wayne had 1, Sal had 2. And oddly enough, Carol Wayne never came back to the show, even though she's literally sleeping with the producer.
Well, she would have gotten divorced sometime before the end of 1980.
That might explain it. The third week had Marianne Mobley. Again, this is where she had her little long shot issue, going against Linwood Boomer. And Marianne Mobley won 1 gauntlet. Linwood Boomer won 3. And I think between that, 3 gauntlet wins, and I believe each of the other 2, or at least one of the other 2 losses, they were at Villain 10 when the time ran out. So he could have conceivably had 4 gauntlet wins. And I think we know, based on Malcolm in the Middle, he is a very smart person, a very smart writer. But also at the same time, he came across as having the personality of Pete Moss. He didn't shake hands with contestants. And even after seeing contestants nudge him in the side, hey, shake my hand or whatnot, he didn't react. And I think that was just a bad look. So yeah, he's a smart player. He's a great player, but he just had like no personality. Like he didn't want to be there. And also, as far as I know, this is the only game show Linwood Boomer has ever done.
This was like in the middle of his run as Adam, what's his name? Adam Kendall on Little House on the Prairie. So,
but still, like I said, he wasn't even on any other NBC shows. I don't think he was on Squares or any sort of celebrity guest on anything else. Week 4, we've already referred to, because that was the week with Dee Dee Khan and John Shuck. Aw, Shuck. And Dee Dee won both of her gauntlets that week. John Shuck didn't win anything in terms of gauntlets. He actually won 3 games that week, but went 0 for 3 at the gauntlet.
0 for 3 at the gauntlet? That's outrageous.
I know, John, I know. The following week had Rita Moreno and Richard Klein. And actually, on the Tuesday episode of that week, a very funny impromptu moment. At this time, Three's Company was recording at Television City, actually in the studio next to where Few recorded, which was Studio 33, legendary Studio 33, Bob Barker Studio, Price is Right, Match Game, Carol Burnett. You know about Studio 33. So on the Tuesday episode of that week, you actually had John Ritter coming by and making a cameo. Right after Richard Klein and his partner won a game, here comes John Ritter onto the set, put a cardigan, a sweater around Richard Klein's neck, and shook Tom Kennedy's hand. It is a quickie, if you blink, you'll miss it type of thing.
Charge Leonard.
Level 6, 500.
6, 500. A jug of wine, a loaf of bread, and Mao.
And thou.
Yes. What are you doing? Come over here. Come over here. I told you I was going to get you on the show, but we do have a priority list.
I'm sorry. Congratulations. I'm just... Phew.
I know that. Bye. Come here. Look at this.
Who in the heck was that?
But yeah, John Ritter actually made a cameo on Few, December 14th of 79. And that week, nobody won a single gauntlet. So this may be a budget-saving maneuver after Linwood Boomer took him for 3 gauntlets in week 3. The following week, Trish Stewart and Gary Collins. And as I mentioned earlier, Gary Collins would appear later on in the series with his wife, Marianne Mobley. And in that week, Gary Collins actually won 3 gauntlets out of 4. And actually, when he returned with Marianne Mobley, which we're going to get to in a little bit, he actually set the winnings record for celebrities at that point because he had won at least 1 gauntlet that week. So he surpassed Linwood Boomer in terms of gauntlets won. On week 7, we had Robert Mandan and Michael Young. Robert Mandan from Soap, we've talked about him plenty of times. Michael Young, as we mentioned earlier, I do believe, he was on Kids Are People Too. Very popular show in the late 70s, early 80s for the youngins. And no gauntlets were won that week either. So we're in a real dry spell. 2 of the previous 3 weeks, there were no gauntlet wins. And then we get to week 8. Sal Viscuso returns, and he's playing against Elaine Joyce. And actually, Elaine Joyce's husband makes a cameo in one episode, Bobby Van. And actually, that was the only time that week Elaine Joyce got to the gauntlet. He did a surprise cameo at the gauntlets, and actually the telebellies said, and now a surprise, and now here's Bobby Van. And Bobby Van came up from like the back steps behind the gauntlet, and he's there shaking hands with Tom Kennedy and getting a hug from Elaine Joyce. And sadly, she didn't win that gauntlet, the only chance she had that week.
I would like to introduce you to 10 of the most money-grabbing muggers who ever stood between a dancing housewife and her money, and here they are. Say, you dirty villains, you. It says, ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Van. There he is. Hey, Bobby. How are you? Have you met these people?
Of course.
You know Robin, of course.
No, I don't know Robin.
But I thought maybe you'd like to meet the lady in purple.
Yeah, she looks pretty good, doesn't she?
She looks sensational. And so do you, Bobby.
Hey, listen, you're going to win $25,000.
Now I'm inspired.
No, you are. And you're going to win it for her, okay? And I'm going to go over there and watch
That's the greatest
it.
news.
We'll see you later, all right?
And you made me laugh.
Okay.
All right, Bobby. See you later. Hey, thank you for dropping by, pal. Now, that should inspire you, Robin. He came over here just to wish you good luck, and so you got to do it. For Bobby, okay?
I do, for Bobby, yeah.
Would you do it for Bobby?
Oh, yeah, sure.
All right, now, one
I
of
do
you...
it for Bobby all the time. I mean...
And Sal Viscuso won 1 gauntlet that week. And also, we should add, this aired in early 1980 and probably one of the last cameo appearances by Bobby Van because he would pass later in 1980. Well, actually, he was also on a week of Beat the Clock. Oh, yeah, we're going to get to Beat the Clock. We're going to do a Beat the Clock revisited later on this episode, since we did talk about Beat the Clock in episode 31. Week 9 had Gina Hecht and Brian Patrick Clark, and only Brian won a gauntlet that week. He won 1 gauntlet. Week 10 was Joan Prather and Jay Johnson. The Monday episode started with Stephen Matthews returning, and we talked about that earlier. He came back to Pomp and Circumstance. He obliterated the villains, won well over $28,000, and picked up Tom Kennedy, probably against his doctor's advice with the bad knee. And then after he won, they brought out 2 new contestants, and Jay Johnson actually won 2 gauntlets that week. So actually there were 3 won that week if you include Stephen Matthews' gauntlet. Week 11 had Roxy Roker and Richard Paul. Richard won 2 gauntlets that week, and Roxy, she tried. She got to 1 gauntlet and did not win. Week 12, Didi Khan and Patrick Wayne. Patrick Wayne again, and Dee Dee Khan again. So these are 2 returning players. Each won a gauntlet that week. Week 13, Meredith McRae and John Walmsley from the Waltons. And John Walmsley sort of falls under the category I mentioned earlier. Bless him, he's trying. He did not do well that week. Meredith, in the meantime, she did win a gauntlet. The following week, week 14, Rita Moreno and Ross Martin. And Ross actually won 2 gauntlets that week. And Rita, we can't say anything bad about Rita, even though she didn't go to any gauntlets. Week 15 had Marianne Mobley and Gary Collins, as we've referred to a couple of times this episode. And Marianne Mobley actually won 2 gauntlets, and Gary Collins won just the one. But again, he was sort of crowned the money winner for few at that point because he had won 4 gauntlets. So he had won well over $100,000 for his contestant partners. Week 16 was Jamie Farr and Dick Gaudier. We talked about that earlier with Dick Gaudier having the long shot issues. But also, it's kind of interesting. On the Tuesday episode, March 5th of 1980, the Oregon Beaver cheerleaders were in the audience.
I think what Mike meant to say is the Oregon State Beavers were in the audience, since Oregon is the Ducks, obviously.
And actually, at the end of the show, Tom brought them up on stage. There were probably about 12 of them, and they're supposed to do a cheer for few. And there may have been a little bit of stage fright because, I didn't think we were going to be doing this. But it's just interesting to see that. And nobody won a gauntlet that week. But to make it even worse, Dick Gaudier, I mentioned his issues with the long shots. He didn't even win a single match that week. Never made it to the gauntlet. So if you were paired up with Dick Gaudier that week, that's just horrible luck. Week 17 had Marsha Wallace and Clifton Davis, and actually each of them won 1 gauntlet. Week 18, and this actually just literally aired this past week, or part of it aired this past week. The first 2 episodes aired back in January, actually, but also reran a week ago. And the last 3 episodes of this week aired earlier this week as we're recording this. Betty White and Richard Klein. And actually, Betty only went to 2 gauntlets, but she won 1. Richard went to 4 gauntlets, but didn't win any of them. And now we're actually picking up where we're at now in the run. As of today, September 23rd, yesterday's episode that aired on the 22nd was the Monday episode of this week, which is week 19, Carolyn Jones and Michael Young. We mentioned Michael Young from Kids Are People Too. Carolyn Jones we know as Marticia Adams. And really, this is one of the last shows that she did. She did Tattletales back in like 82, but that was like it. I think this is probably her second to last appearance because there weren't a lot of game shows back in the early 80s, but also she did pass away in 1983. So we know one episode has aired. Unfortunately, we don't know the results in terms of who won and gauntlets and whatnot. So sort of from this point forward, we're going to just give the celebrity names. In week 20, Elaine Joyce returns with John Saxon, who we just mentioned in episode 309. Week 21 was Trish Stewart and Jamie Farr, which 2 episodes are known to be on the internet, I do believe, from that week. So they're there if you want to see them before they actually air. Week 22 had Marilyn McCoo and Grant Goodeve. And I think footage from that week is online too. And then we had Meredith McRae and Jack Carter in week 23. Joan Prather returned with Robert Mandan in week 24. Week 25 had Roxy Roker and Dick Gaudier once again, which is interesting since neither of them won a gauntlet. And actually, Dick Gaudier, the last time he was on, didn't win a single thing. So I don't know if this is a budget move or a chance at redemption. Week 26 Marianne Mobley and Gary Collins again, because, hey, they're just such a great couple. And Gary Collins is taking you for $100,000. Week 27 is Marsha Wallace and Robert Vaughn. And then the last week, and actually I say last week very loosely because it looks like there's only 2 episodes that aired this week, Betty White and John Saxon.
Yes.
And what a way to go out. Betty White and John, well, not necessarily the John Saxon part, but Betty White. And actually, a rule they had for those last couple of episodes is, so they ended on a gauntlet. They didn't want to end in the middle of a game because that wouldn't be fair and whatnot. They had a rule instituted that if you won the first 2 games, you played a solo round against, again, air quotes, the villains. And that actually happened on the last episode where one team won the first 2 rounds. So they went to the gauntlet, but got to play for more money against the house, if you will. And it's kind of interesting what pattern the villains use. And again, this may be the Jay Wolpert humor / sarcasm in play. If you look at it, it's a picture of a middle finger. Basically, what the blocking strategy employed by the villains was level 3, 20, 30, 40, level 4, 30, level 5, 30, level 6, 350. And if you look at that, it's an inverted T, which if you look at it the right way, is a middle finger. Make your own theories.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Jay Wolpert loves giving one giant beep you to the producers and or the network right before his shows are canceled.
So yeah, that's the show. Like I said, we went from essentially 12 episodes to now we have like 175 out there. It's a great show. If you have never seen it, you're doing yourself injustice. Right now it's on at 8:30 Monday through Friday, 8:30 Eastern on BUZZR. And you can get BUZZR just about anywhere, especially through streaming services. If you use Pluto TV, it's there. If you use Tubi, I'm sure it's there. Roku channel, I know, carries it. There's plenty of options for you to get BUZZR. Or you can watch through their website. And if you haven't seen Few, I encourage you, take half an hour out of your day. You're going to laugh. You may be a little offended because, admittedly, this is 1979 where political correctness doesn't exist. So there may be stuff that wouldn't play in 2022. And sometimes they censor it, sometimes they cut it out. But there's been times where they keep it in there, even in spite of the political incorrectness. Well, now Few's done, I think we need to give equal time to the second part of episode 31. We're going to do Beat the Clock Revisited.
Oh, I can't wait.
Episode 310, Part B. Submission number 891B.5. Beat the Clock in 1979. Beat the Clock aired on CBS from September 17th of 1979 to February 1st of 1980.
Throw it. Joe it. Swing it. Fling it. Grab it. Nab it. Snap it. Chop it. Pop it. Pop it. Smash it. Smash it. That's the way. Every day you can play Beat the Clock. Now here's the star of the all-new Beat the Clock, Mr. Monty Hall.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, and welcome to Beat the Clock.
Here's the revisited part of Beat the Clock. I've seen the finale. It stunk.
Oh, so, okay. In short, your review is basically...
It stinks.
That sums it up nicely. We could have heard from Jay Sherman, from the critic, but you're absolutely right about that. That's our revisited version of Beat the Clock. I saw the finale. I got sort of closure in that regard in terms of seeing the final episode. Still haven't seen like 2 or 3 episodes from that final week, but yeah, I was not thoroughly impressed. Anything you guys want to say about Few? We're not going to even touch Beat the Clock. That was just basically, again, just to give equal time to Beat the Clock since we talked about both shows back on episode 31.
I think we said everything we needed to say in 31, so.
Between 31 and 310, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Few, hey, we love it around these parts. A lot of people love it. May not be everybody's cup of tea, but back in 1979 and 1980, they tried their little punny hearts out, but unfortunately, Few just ended up being a thing on TV.
Yeah, but it's a really good thing on TV and one that is adored even to this day.
Yeah.
Of course, we have so much more to adore on our website. It was a thing on TV.com. The previous 309 episodes, good, bad, or somehow indifferent, in addition to live watches, mini-sodes, and a special event series that Greg and I, or Greg and Mike, or Mike and I like to do from time to time.
Oh, hold on. I got a big announcement to make. I got a new solo project that I'm doing for Place to Be. Okay, are you ready for this? Now, I told Mike this, but Chico, you don't know about this.
I don't know about this.
I am going to review and watch all 8 episodes from 1993 of WWF All-American Wrestling featuring Joe Fowler as co-host with Bobby Heenan. Yes!
You're crazy.
You know what it's going to be called?
What's it going to be called?
All-American Joe.
And a hush of silence goes over Chico's microphone.
And King Arthur is going to be very proud of all 8 episodes.
That's just about as pointless as Titania owning the rights to the name She-Hulk after
Oh, hold
She-Hulk
on!
discovered
Time
it.
out! We haven't talked about episode 3 through 6 through She-Hulk, so I guess we now have to finally up-to-date Mike, because we were stuck on episode 2. We didn't mention episodes 3 and 4 2 weeks ago, because Mike was not on the second episode, and we didn't mention episode 5 last week's taping, so let's get them up to date on everything.
All right, I'll get them up to date. Okay, here's the main bits you need to know. In episode 3, Jennifer has to represent Abomination, a.k.a. Emil Blonsky, and she needs the help of the Sorcerer Supreme Wong, played by Benedict Wong, to do so. All the while, the superhuman Law Division needs to help out an Asgardian shapeshifter.
This shapeshifter pretended to be Megan Thee Stallion because
they ended up having a twerk off. It was
the real Megan Thee Stallion appears in the end of the episode. Yes, with She-Hulk, and they twerk at the end of the episode. But that isn't all right. Episode 4. Let's get into the main thing that I should have mentioned last week. Okay.
Wait. Pump the brakes for a second. You said they twerk at the end of the episode?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, but episode 4. Now, I should have mentioned this last week. Now, Mike, I talked to you about how Uri Geller's Spoon Trick sucks and how it's terrible.
Yeah, and I agree with you.
Chico, I think this other magician,
Donnie Blaze?
Yeah, he sucks also. He sucks
He's
worse
terrible.
than Uri Geller. He's terrible.
He's terrible. People in magic are out to get his ass. He's that terrible.
Yeah, because his one quote-unquote trick is that portal thing that the sorcerers do. And, okay.
With the sling ring?
With the sling ring. But, okay, explain who he gets to volunteer on stage for it. This is amazing. He brings on stage this girl from the crowd who is a little tipsy. Her name is Madison. It is spelled M-A-D...
Okay, it is... He volunteers Madison, that is 2 N's, a Y instead of the I, but not where you think it is.
And what is your name, young lady?
Madison with 2 N's, 1 Y, but it's not where you think.
Yeah, Madison. That's her name. But she ends up somehow in Wong's place.
Whoops.
And coincidentally, while Wong is watching The Sopranos, and she spoils scenes from The Sopranos for him. To his annoyance. But this magician, Donnie Bryce, he sucks. Okay.
He's terrible.
He's awful. That's all you need to know. But okay, in episode 4 at the end, what's the big twist at the end of episode 4?
Titania sues Jennifer.
Over the rights to She-Hulk.
Yes, because it turns out Titania legally owns She-Hulk, and that feeds into episode 5.
Yeah. Where She-Hulk is represented by Wiki from Girls 5 Eva.
Yeah. AKA the divinely amusing Renee Elise Goldsberry.
Yeah, we love her. So they get the rights back to the She-Hulk name for Jennifer. But also, I think, doesn't, like, one of the other people at Jennifer's law firm, he's trying to buy sneakers. He's trying to buy these Iron Man sneakers.
I want to say that's what happens because B-plot, Pug tries to get help from Nikki to nab a new shoe called the Iron Man 3s.
The Iron Man 3s. But also we find out that there's like this market of bootleg Avengers merchandise.
There really is.
Yeah, Mike, it's the crappiest looking merchandise you've ever seen.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
That's terrible.
But also, there's a big twist at the end of the episode because Jennifer is meeting this, like, I guess, fashion designer for, like, all her, like, legal suits and stuff. I guess he designs, like, all this stuff for, like, all the superheroes and stuff. And then the big twist at the end of the episode, which we briefly see, Jacob, say it.
Daredevil.
Yeah, we see his mask at the end of the episode.
You see the mask of Daredevil.
At the end of the episode, hinting that he'll be in later in the series. So, yeah, we've said 3, 4, and 5. We'll wait till next week to talk about episode 6 and episode 7. So, we'll leave it off in episode 5.
I'd also like to remind you that not only do we have a presence on YouTube, but also most social media. We are on Facebook at It Was a Thing on TV podcast. We're on Twitter at It Was a Thing on TV. Likewise, Instagram, we're on at It Was a Thing on TV. And coming up next week, we got a lot of baseball coming up.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting that we talk about that. Well, obviously next week is going to be the last weekend of the regular season, but also every one of us has a vested interest in the playoffs at this point.
Yep.
Greg's Mets are definitely going to the playoffs. The Yankees, Chico's team, definitely going to the playoffs. And the Guardians game just went final. The Guardians won. The White Sox lost. So our magic number is 3. So we're going to the playoffs, it looks like.
Easy.
Yeah, but also the Browns, it was supposedly easy for them when they were up 2 touchdowns with under 2 minutes left.
99.9 win per.
No, boy. Don't even remind me. Do not even remind me.
Hey, I got your hold on a second. I got your answer right here. Yeah, Joe Flacco. He's elite, according to PFT.
Oh, boy.
So, yeah, 2 of our teams are in, and probably by the time you hear this, the 3rd team will be in. Gosh, we can only hope. I don't want a Browns collapse. This place, talking about Cleveland, will probably have a nuclear meltdown if the Guardians don't make the playoffs.
At least the Browns won last night.
Yeah. And
the city of Cleveland will implode if the Guardians do not make the playoffs with a 99.9 percentage right now. Just saying.
And you still have 2016 with the Cavs.
I'm glad you didn't mention 2016 with the Indians.
Oh, yeah, I forgot
but-
they blew a 3-1 lead, too.
Oh, God. Why, Greg? Why,
Yeah.
Greg?
Why are you poking the bear? You know better than that. But hey, you know what? 2022, youngest team in baseball. We're younger than our AAA team. There's some fun times ahead, at least until people want to get paid.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, they'll be on the Mets in 5 years.
Essentially, yeah.
With all that Steve Cohen money.
So before this whole enterprise goes completely off the rails, too late, just a reminder, on Monday, we have a baseball show.
Yep. And then on Thursday, we'll talk about a shiny disc.
Mm-hmm.
But also next week, another baseball episode, a mini-sode.
Yes.
Something that we discovered, when was this, Greg? Maybe about 5 months ago, 6 months ago?
No, I think it was like sometime during the summer.
Oh, okay. So it's maybe about 3 months. 3 months ago? Oh my gosh. That's I'm sorry, that's the longest 3 months in history. But yeah, we found something that we feel we need to talk about in a mini-sode that is related to baseball. We'll keep it at that. So next week, episodes 311, 312, and mini-sode 22 will be coming your way right here at It Was a Thing on TV. Don't forget the website, itwasathingontv.com. Until Monday, when we come to you with that baseball-themed episode, stay safe, tell your friends to tune in, and enjoy your weekend.
Bye.
Greg, roar us out.
Wow!
Leonard Bernstein, our current champ, has just won another game. Now, this will be your third attempt. Incidentally, we have a rule on the show. You're only allowed to go 5 times. But this is number 3 for you. Yes. And so you and Rita, when we come back, we'll have a chance at $25,000. So far, he has $3,230. What do you have coming up, Rita?
Oh, the Holiday Inn Condado Beach in Puerto Rico, the week of New Year's Eve.
Isn't that great? They'll be lucky people to have you there. And we're going to see you on Three's Company, which is on every week.
Tuesday nights.
There you go. And we're going to see you next time right here on Celebrity.
Some of our departing contestants will receive a 7-piece Performer gourmet cutlery set with extra sharp chrome stainless steel blades and ebony Fleetwood handles. Dishwasher safe from Washington Forge. From Polinex, handheld and Swedish style deep heat massagers to help ease tension and relax tired muscles. Hallmark writing estimates, pen and pencil sets in your choice of walnut, cordia, teak, tulip wood, rosewood, and African Windsor wood. Distinctive Hallmark gifts. And Totes compact umbrella. A great gift, opens big enough for 2, falls small in a flash. Totes, a great gift for men or women. This is Rod Roddy speaking. Celebrity is a Jay Walford presentation in association with the Bud Austin Company. Stay tuned for The Price is Right over most of these CBS stations.